One of the hardest things for the Dynasty community to do is recalibrate expectations on a player after they've already let us down. We are extremely unforgiving when it comes to players that we've already put on that pedestal, but then they failed to meet our expectations. And there's perhaps no better example of this recently than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now listen, I was burned by him too. I was one of those guys taking CEH as a top 5 running back before he even stepped foot on the field. Clearly, I was very wrong, but I think that the hate has gone too far on a player who has been decent for fantasy. He just hasn't been what we thought. So let's start out by recalibrating our expectations based on what CH has given us so far in just his 2-year career. Unfortunately, because of injuries, he's only played in 23 games, but in those 23 games, he was a top 24 running back 13 times and startable in 19 of those games as a top 36 back. Now, those are pretty solid numbers overall for a running back, and in fact, over the last 2 years, CH has a higher RB1 percentage than Leonard Fournette, Miles Sanders, Saquon Barkley, and AJ Dillon, all players currently being drafted ahead of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I even took it a step further and I looked back at how players produced during their first 23 games, like what CH has, and did you know that CH has produced more top 24 weeks at the start of his career than Joe Mixon, Antonio Gibson, and LaShawn McCoy, and the same number as Melvin Gordon? Now you might say,
Well, Addison, that's just top 24. Those players produced more RB1 weeks and they have higher ceilings.
well, actually, no, because CH also has the same number of top 12 weeks to start his career as Joe Mixon, LaShawn McCoy, and Melvin Gordon, and then just one fewer than Antonio Gibson. So essentially with the usage that he's already had, we've seen CEH be a top 24 back on a weekly basis more often than not. And then again, that's assuming that nothing in his workload changes. But that leads me to another reason why I really want to buy CEH right now, because I believe a very positive change is coming for him in 2022. Take a look at the Chiefs running back depth chart right now and tell me what you see, or better yet, tell me what you don't see. Because what I don't see are any pass catchers in this backfield. I don't see Darrell Williams. He's gone in Arizona. I don't see Jarrett McKinnon, who is still unsigned. All I see is Ronald Jones, who everybody laughs at as a player, especially for pass catching. I also see an undrafted 3-year journeyman in Derek Gore and a 7th round rookie from this past class. Then you move up to the wide receiver position. I don't see Tyreek Hill or Byron Pringle, and I see 3 brand new receivers to this offense and system. This team has over 300 vacated targets from last year, with arguably the best quarterback in the game right now. If you're a fan of the fantasy footballers, you might hear them mention that when teams have a lot of vacated targets, it's the running back position that most often sees a bump in targets the following year, not the wide receiver core. This is based on findings from Kyle Borgognoni back in 2018, who found that teams with a lot of vacated targets more often lean on their running backs that season, while the receivers maintain the same target share from before. He noted that the Cowboys turned Zeke Elliott into a target hog after losing Dez Bryant and Jason Witten, while also having Cole Beasley, Michael Gallup, and then trading for Amari Cooper. Zeke went from 2 seasons under 40 targets to 95 in 2018. Also in 2018, the Dolphins lost Jarvis Landry, and that took Kenyon Drake from under 50 targets to 73 that season. In 2019, the Jaguars lost Dante Moncrief's 89 targets and TJ Yeldon's 79. So that made Leonard Fournette go from 74 targets in his first 2 seasons combined to 100 in 2019. A more recent example, the Lions had the most vacated targets last year after losing Marvin Jones, Danny Amendola, and Kenny Golladay. So DeAndre Swift goes from 57 targets in 2020 to 78 last year. As I mentioned, the Chiefs have over 300 vacated targets from last year, which is by far the most heading into 2022 after trading Tyreek Hill and losing Pringle and Williams in free agency. Obviously, Travis Kelce is going to continue to be Travis Kelce, but after him, who knows how this team's going to shake out in targets. I honestly doubt that Mecole Hardman sees anything more than what he's already gotten. Everybody hates on Juju for whatever reason. Marquez Valdes-Scantling is just a vertical threat, and while I love Sky Moore, he's not a difference maker yet at the position as a rookie to immediately command targets. We know Mahomes is going to throw the ball 600 times. He's going to throw for over 4,000 yards. He's going to throw for over 30 touchdowns, but who does it go to? To me, I think it's about time that they start utilizing the biggest strength of their first round running back from a couple years ago, which is catching the ball. All CEH has to do is just be Darrell Williams from last year. Williams was the RB20 in PPR leagues on under 200 touches, totaling just over 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. That to me doesn't seem all that hard for a starting running back in one of the best offenses in the league to do. And honestly, that can kind of feel like an under projection. I mean, would it surprise anyone if CEH had close to 200 rush attempts, maybe 800 rushing yards, a handful of touchdowns, and then receiving, he has 65 targets, 50 receptions, 400 receiving yards, and maybe a couple touchdowns through the air? At the end of the season, that's 1,200 total yards, 7 to 8 touchdowns, which in PPR leagues would have equaled out to be a borderline RB1, very similar to what Aaron Jones did last year. That's also essentially what CH was doing in his rookie season when he was an RB1 before he got hurt in 2020. So based on all of that, CH's price should be a smash buy if we believe that he has a good opportunity to not only be a solid RB2 for fantasy, but possibly a borderline RB1. From May ADP, CH was the RB28, essentially one of the last starting running backs drafted, even going behind AJ Dillon, who's not only a full year older than Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but is also not a starting running back. It's also actually the cheapest he's ever been according to our ADP, as he's been on a downhill slide in value ever since last September. The DLF Trade Finder shows recent trades for CEH, like moving Zeke for CEH, Adam Thielen, James Robinson, and a 2023 second, or moving Chase Edmonds and the 212 for CEH, or even Travis Etienne and Darnell Mooney, who both of them I love for 2022, but move both for CEH, AJ Brown, and the 110. Or lastly, whatever this one is, getting both CEH and a 2023 first. These are easy moves to make to acquire CEH, where you're essentially paying for depth, not even including the upside that he could have with a higher target share from the vacated targets or just more opportunity in general. Don't offer a first though, that's overpaying, and I would actually advise selling CEH for any first if you already have him. I know CEH has been a disappointment for everybody who drafted him 101 or 102 in rookie drafts, but that doesn't mean that he's not a good fantasy asset still. In fact, if those managers who drafted him in rookie drafts still have him in your league, those are the ones who might be sick and tired of him and be willing to sell him cheap just to get rid of him. And those are the managers that I want to attack in a trade to get Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So let me know down in the comments how you guys feel about him. If you're 100% done with him, or you see the same upside that I do still and willing to buy back at a much cheaper price. Once you've done that, like this video, hit that subscribe button, then let Justin talk to you about his favorite breakout receiver in 2022 right up here.